Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Julian with Joey's Star Astrology. I hope you're having a great weekend. I last spoke to you last week. I think it was last Monday or Tuesday, so it's been quite a week. I'm wondering if any of you have had an interesting week like I have. I'm going to talk today about Venus's station retrograde in the sign of Leo and at 28 degrees. So the retrograde is finally here. The long-awaited retrograde that you've all been hearing about for possibly months now has finally arrived. There may have already been some twists and turns and shakeups for everybody in the area of their finances or relationships, maybe with their children. We'll see, right? But the retrograde is here and we can start to see some of the story playing out now and hopefully get an idea exactly what's going on and how we're going to move forward into some kind of resolution. By the time she's out of her retrograde, she will station direct on September the 4th, and then she will continue to move back, but she won't be out of shadow. So this whole thing isn't going to be over until the end of September, beginning of October, but we're here. So leading up to this station, the retrograde station, we've had quite a week, and I'm going to pull up a chart here and kind of show you what I'm talking about. Maybe you already know if you've had some fireworks or some tension in your lives. We've had quite the week when it comes to holding the tension of some situation in our lives, especially if you're a Virgo or a Pisces, a Gemini, or a Sagittarius, where some of these, one of these oppositions is affecting and squaring. And also the cardinal signs. We've had an opposition, a cardinal opposition, which affects all the cardinal signs. And that would be Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra. So really, everybody may have been feeling some kind of tension in their lives this past week, even if it was just having too much to do and not enough time to do it. Maybe not feeling good. Maybe it had something to do with work. Who knows? But definitely this week was leading up to this retrograde was super tense. So I am going to show you the chart and give you a picture of what I'm talking about here before I move on. All right, so we have here the first opposition that I want to talk about is the opposition between Pluto and the Sun that occurred yesterday, July 22nd. And this is an extremely powerful opposition. Cancer is a sign of family and emotions, and Pluto is very powerful. So these two things, the sun shining its light and butting its head, creating, some kind of push for balance, can create a lot of tension. So the opposition in the last few days leading up to the time where it actually perfected at 29 degrees Cap, 29 degrees Cancer yesterday could have caused some kind of eruption, conversation, emotional reaction. Could have been subconscious. This could be, opposition can be relational, but it could be with you and a situation that you are reflecting on or you've been through. It could be with you and another person. Pluto represents power and control. It can represent the past. Very powerful in terms of wanting to transform or bring out in the open what's going on. And the sun there is the life force. In the sign of Cancer is very emotional. So if any of you had something come to a head yesterday and it turned into a conversation or a struggle of some sort, well, the cosmos may have been responsible for it. So that's one opposition creating a lot of tension this last week. We've also had the opposition with Mars and Saturn, which I did a video on. I talked about that, but actually it perfected yesterday and is still in effect today. I think I said in the video it would be till about July 25th, and Mars in Virgo, Virgo representing work and service and health, and Pisces, Saturn over there in Pisces, which I talked about extensively in some of my prior videos, over there representing the need to work hard, to put something under a structure. It represents authority figures. It can represent fear. It can represent blocks and delays. And when Mars opposes Saturn, and we want to take care of something, get something done, can be very busy trying to get, all of the things that we have to do taken care of, and we're running into roadblocks, delays, problems. Saturn is saying, no, there's a problem. You've got to go this way. You've got to go that way. We could have had us in a maze trying to sort of go around situations. Nonetheless, whatever it was, creating a lot of frustration, which can fall back on us in terms of, it can have us feeling depressed and down and emotional. It can have us feeling angry or wanting to get things done even quicker, and just finding out that we're just not getting anywhere. So also there can be insecurity. Should I do this? I don't know. That can be within yourself too, or you could be running up against actual frustrating situations that are creating problems for you. So we've been dealing with that all week. So a very difficult week in terms of pressure and tension in the cosmos. I'd love to hear if anything was going on for any of you. It was for me. I won't bore you with the gory details, but it was quite a pressurous week trying to figure things out. Realizing my responsibilities. How am I going to get it all taken care of? Like I said, maybe there's not enough time in the day. It could be that simple. Nonetheless, a lot of pressure and tension this week. Now we have Venus in Leo going retrograde. Right over here, you can see the S there. That means she's stationed, she's stopped, she's slowed down. And when a planet stations, it's very, very powerful. So she's sitting at 28 degrees towards the end of the sign of Leo, towards the end of Leo, because it's, they're 30 degrees in each sign. And that's very powerful. We have, obviously, I mentioned the 29 degree placements. We have the nodes here, 29 degrees, and Pluto up here at 29 degrees. So, we're dealing with all of this critical energy, these turning points that are pushing us, and we might all feel very pushed in many directions these days. So I hope you're all doing well. It has been crazy, and I realize this could cause a lot of mental stress, but also physical stress. So hopefully you're all doing well. So Venus stations and Chiron stations. Chiron in the sign of Aries, and Chiron's been in Aries since 2018. So we have been dealing with our own personal wounds, whether those be physical or emotional, for quite some time. But as Chiron moves through and makes aspects to the other planets, and as he comes closer to meeting up with the North Node in Aries, which is our collective destiny, what we're supposed to be learning that is new regarding relationships and how we act within relationships on behalf of ourselves, has station retrograde too. And so very interesting times. Now the retrogrades, like I said, Venus will be in retrograde until the beginning of September, coming out of Leo end of September, beginning of October. I believe she comes out of the shadow through the end of September, but she actually moves forward into Virgo. I think it's October 4th. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't look. I mean, I've looked that far ahead, but I don't have that in the note. So that retrograde overall 40 days, 40 nights. And Chiron will be retrograding like it does every year. So when we have retrograde time periods with any planet, It means that we're taking a look back, right? We're reviewing, revising. It's more, internal. Even if there are external factors, we feel it more internally. We can reflect on, if we've been in places before, how we've handled things in the past. We can be dealing with things and situations from the past. And a retrograde time period is a time to do exactly that, to revise, revisit, and review things that we have already experienced outside of ourselves or within ourselves. It isn't the time to do anything brand new with Venus related things. So it's not a good time to make big purchases. It's not a good time to make big aesthetic changes. It's not a good time to start new relationships. But retrogrades, they usually bring back things. So if it's something that you're already familiar with, maybe it's a good idea to take a look at it again, see if something can be resolved or changed or moved forward that was left undone. And with Chiron retrograde in the sign of Aries, it's taking a look back at our own personal woundings and how we have healed or helped other people heal, because that's what Chiron is, right? We help other people heal, and that helps turn that healing back towards us. So, Aries is at 19, or Chiron is at 19 degrees of Aries, and that does talk about giving and taking, accepting help and offering help. So we'll see how that plays out, especially with the nodes now in Libra and Aries. Venus has made her first initial squares to Jupiter in the sign of Taurus and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. So by now, whatever is going to come up for you regarding this Venus retrograde, or it could be, more than one thing, the process has probably already been started, even if you're not aware of it, right? You probably will be very soon. The retrograde Venus, squaring the sign of Jupiter, cautions us to be very careful about our vision for the future. But it encourages us to learn so that we can grow. Jupiter in Taurus wants us to learn, open our minds, see the bigger picture so that we can grow into something more stable, secure, and practical into the future. It can also, Jupiter can make everything bigger. So when you're talking about Venus, which is money, relationships, it could cause like something to be too much, right? Overboard. The square that Venus has made to Uranus can cause sudden eruptions, changes. It can also bring us sudden and quick intuitions that help us figure out how to move forward and create a more simple, comfortable life, right? And now that she is retrograde, she's going to hit those squares again. And then, like I said, she'll hit them on the way out for a third time. This could have this could cause a slowdown in things like your income, money. You could find that there are more expenses coming up. You could find that there are relationship issues occurring. Could have all of those things repeat themselves and come back to us, and we're like, oh, weren't we here before, right? All things like that could come back up during this retrograde period. In the sign of Leo, Venus is very bold in pursuit of what it is that she wants and values. So, and can be very, very outspoken and fiery in her pursuit of that. Leo is all about our need to express ourselves, what it is that we truly want deep in the center of our heart. It's about our childlike expression being recognized. as if we were on a stage, feeling that warmth. It's also our ability to give that to the people in our lives as well. So, which would be children, right? We create children. That's the fifth house. Leo rules the fifth house. We're taking a look at what we value, what we want in that area of our lives. And we could find some things rewinding and going backwards and experiencing some hiccups. Overall, it represents potentially another chance to do something different if we can remember where we've been before. And it's interesting because not Saturn, sorry, wrong. Neptune and Pluto are creating an inconjunct, which in this configuration, because Neptune and Pluto are sextile, and creating the inconjuncts to Venus, it's what we call a finger of God or a finger of fate. And the apex of that is Venus. So that's the action planet. So Pluto can be the past, it can be an eruption, it can be, uncovering something, right? It can be obsessions. Neptune is all about the higher mind. It's a higher octave of Venus. So there's a higher purpose potentially, or there's a familiarity. An inconjunct creates frustrations, but the inconjunct or the quincunx represents energy that doesn't recognize one another. They have nothing in common, but there's a tension that can be felt. So Pluto and Neptune are outer planets, and they represent the past in a lot of ways, or what's ingrained, within us. It can be subconscious. So there's another place where we could have been feeling some tension and not really knowing what was adding to that, other than maybe there was a subconscious memory or realization or something. Your body remembers what you've gone through and the tension that you feel, and it comes back in when you're in similar situations. So that can also be playing in to what's going on with this Venus retrograde, and also into the tension that we have experienced this week with the oppositions that I pointed out. Neptune and Pluto have been in a sextile off and on for a very long time, and they will continue to be. And when I look at that sextile, it makes me think about everything that's changing and crumbling in our foundations and our world, how the life that we have known, and that's been going on for quite some time. And we know Capricorn represents things like work and responsibilities and corporations and governments. Sextiling Neptune tells me that all of that is happening for a reason, for a higher purpose, right? It's like a cosmic reshuffling, right? There's a divine purpose for why things are breaking down. And now that Saturn's in Pisces, giving us an opportunity to start and create a structure to rebuild the things that are falling apart, right? Pluto goes through, things are changed permanently, but creating this inconjunct and this finger of God or finger of fate to Venus in the sign of Leo going retrograde creates some kind of tension, which I think is pointing us towards at least subconsciously or in our body feeling something that brings us a reflective sort of notion, right? And wants us to remember somehow where we've been and where we're going, and that even if it's been difficult or things have changed drastically, that there's overall a higher purpose for all of that. So there's that is in play. Of course, Venus is now ruling the South Node, which is in Libra, and it's a sextile. Right now, Venus is in a sextile just as she's retrograding to the South Node, which is what we're familiar with, what we've already experienced somehow in relationships in Libra, and is making a trine to the North Node. So this is a time where it's very, very easy and most likely that we are experiencing situations or memories or feelings related to the past relationships potentially. This is where the sextile to the South Node could bring back in relationships that aren't resolved or something that we need to learn from. And that's the whole point, is what did we learn from the past? Can we balance out our relationships different if we had it to do over, and better, right? Libra, and when I say that, it's like, the North Node in Aries is about making sure that we're taken care of, that we've considered ourselves and our own needs, and that we have a sense of our own person and our freedom to be able to create what we want in our lives for ourselves, where Libra is about the other side. It's about relationships, but Libra can also overgive and compromise too much, which, it's uncomfortable for Libra to be in uncompromising situations, because Libra wants balance. So did we overgive? Did we manipulate in so that we could keep the peace, right? It's very much can be about codependency. And it's interesting with that inconjunct. It's like, well, maybe things are coming around from the past, so that we can take a look at them again, right? So it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a situation, like I said, or a memory. But overall, this is about reviewing and revisiting how we have managed to make sure that we feel fulfilled, and other people in our relationships feel fulfilled, and that we've created balance. And we can do that through communication. Leo's pretty fiery, so like I said, it gets what it wants, so it has the power to bring things back in. It can be very optimistic and generous. It's all about balance in this time period, and it will be with relationships as the nodes move for the next 18 months through Libra and Aries. And while we have Chiron in there, this is about healing ourselves, right? And again, healing goes both ways. What can we do different that fulfills ourselves and also gives to other people? It's like that seems to be the theme. And sometimes when we are going, it's evolutionary, right? When we're learning those lessons and we have the squares to the nodes, right? This is about, now it's time for progress. And it doesn't always feel easy. It can be very, very difficult, but these are bringing it's time to bring things up into our reality that we can process and change and work through, so that we can move forward on our path. So Venus retrograde in the sign of Leo is very, very powerful and significant right now. And with the sextiles and trines to the North Node and the South Node, this is likely going to bring things back up from the past. How are we going to handle it? Is it going to be different? Have we learned something since that issue or that person or that situation has passed and now it's coming back? Have we learned something in between? Will we do something different? With Venus squaring Uranus, it can be a lot about our reactions, right? So a lot of this is, challenging us to sort of speak up, go after what we want, but be mindful of the fact that there are other people involved, right? And that we can be affected in ways that can either help us grow or create huge chasms in our lives. And then, of course, how it works. We're going to go through those lessons again sometime. But this is a very significant time that, to me, represents a higher purpose, a cosmic reshuffling, an opportunity to revisit and take a look at things and do things different from a more solid place of healing. So, even if it's difficult, at the end of the day, it should be positive. Now, if we're talking about just what's going on out in the world, that's completely different than talking about how this might affect us, our personal evolution. Even though what happens out in the world affects the collective evolution, we see things differently. And I constantly look at, things going on out there, and how does that match the astrology? If you're learning astrology, that is a very good way to enhance your understanding of the transiting planets, is to see if you can find situations, things that are in the news, or even in your life, just things going on that you hear about that actually match the transiting planets. It's very interesting. And so with all of this energy that we've had in Leo, and now today when I'm recording this, the sun has moved into Leo. We know that it's very hot everywhere. Again, I mentioned in another video, Mercury can represent weather. So it's very hot everywhere. And all of that Leo is squaring Taurus, which is about the earth. Of course, when we're talking about finances, and we've got squares there, talking about instability potentially in our finances and the banking industry. We talked about the writers and the actors strike. Leo represents actors and fame and creation in that way. So we've got that going on. We've had huge storms that we've been dealing with, Mercury square Uranus. We've had, locally, I've seen like really big accidents and things going on. Mercury square Jupiter in Leo. We've heard about things that are involving children lately in the news. So take a look at like what's coming out, being uncovered, happening suddenly, causing instability in your relationships, in the area of finances. Leo also represents the stock market. I don't really follow the stock market closely enough to tell you what's up, what's down, but there's a potential here for some up and down and volatility in the stock market. With Jupiter sitting in Taurus, people could get very lucky and increase their wealth. By the same token, Uranus could cause an upset and could lose it. So, it might be a good time when it comes to money and finance to be a little bit more conservative. It might make sense to be conservative when it comes to relationships as well. But we see these things playing out too on the world stage, like I was mentioning. So, people that are breaking up, scandals that are coming out with children. We have the movie, The Sound of Freedom, that came out during this time. That represents the astrology. So what's going on out in the world is representative of the current astrology. It always is. Take a look, play around with it, do a few science experiments. I do those things all the time. But personally, we've got some twists and turns potentially in our lives when it comes to those Venus-related things. In the sign of Leo. Leo also rules the heart, so it's important to watch your heart health, right? Take care of yourself, watch your blood pressure, things like that. Significantly, this retrograde is going to affect, obviously, those that have placements in the sign of Leo, in the sign of Scorpio, in the sign of Taurus, and Aquarius. Why? Because they are all fixed signs. And so the transit of Venus through the sign of Leo will be either opposing or squaring those signs. Other signs will be affected too by trines. We talked about that. Leo trines the sign of Aries, so there's something going on there. Sextiles Libra, right? So Libra and Aries will be affected. It may be a little bit easier time for Aries and Libra. We also have affected, let's see. No, that would be it. Oh my goodness. I think it's time to end the video when I start to get a little choppy. All right. So I'd like to hear what's going on for all of you in those areas. Again, Venus has a very long transit, and we're looking at Mercury coming up and conjunction, right? Venus will move backwards, Mercury's going forward, they'll conjunct. That will happen on Thursday, the 27th. That should be a pretty interesting day when we're talking about communication and a retrograde Venus hitting each other. We could hear some news, get a text, something surprising. It will be squaring Uranus, something to look for. It should be a pretty exciting week as we kick off this retrograde, and we're coming down off of all of this tension from the oppositions in the other area of the chart that I pointed out. So let me know how things are going. Let me know what's going on in your life. I'd like to hear. If you're interested in taking a look at your birth chart, my information is down below. Until then, or if may the stars forever be in your favor. I'm going to stop this share so I can finish that way. I really appreciate you coming back to the channel and helping me as I grow the channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. I would very much appreciate that. The comments help too, keeps the algorithm going. Very grateful for that. I'll see you soon in another video. I'm hoping to get more, regular, right? As my grandson goes back to school and as football practice, I'll have a lot more time and I won't be have to be shuffling around the house. Oh my goodness, life. Anyway, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Take care.